Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Matt Rhule making some big changes at Nebraska, and it's going to start on the offensive line. Donovan Raiola out, Geep Wade in. Let me just start with this. You talk about an upgrade. This is the upgrade you're looking for if you're a Nebraska fan. Hand up as a Michigan fan, our offensive line coach was on the hot seat 12 months ago, and the first name that came to my mind was Geep Wade and what he's doing at Georgia Tech. Hey, Dill, let's just go by the numbers, and we'll talk about some of the player development implications. We'll start talking about some of the what I would say is recruiting implications as well. Let's just look at the numbers here. Geep Wade at Georgia Tech in 2025, 5.4 yards per carry, top 15 in the country, 2.9% sack rate given up, top 10 in the country. I ain't asking for much, man. I'm asking for an offensive line coach that can come to Nebraska and run the football and protect the quarterback. Two things that we did not do in 2025. Geep Wade's giving that to you because you look at Donovan Raiola and say, all right, 4.1 yards per carry, 82nd in the country. Dill, that's with the running back, that top 3 running back in the country. I don't think that's a crazy statement to make with Emmett Johnson, but you couldn't run the football. And then you look at pass protection. That was an absolute disaster, right? Giving up a sack on 8.5% of dropbacks. That's 118th in the country. When you close your eyes and you envision getting Nebraska where they want to go, you figure it starts up front. We need a bona fide offensive line coach. I think you found one here, man. Now, what does this mean for Dylan? I think that is not the most important conversation. In fact, this might help Dylan's chances of staying at Nebraska. You know, I get it's family. Well, why would Dylan want to leave Nebraska? Because he doesn't think he's getting the help he needs. And I need a better offensive line that can give me a run game. And I need an offensive line that can hold up in pass protection. Because you look at where Nebraska's trying to go, the teams they're trying to beat, and go back to that Michigan game. Dylan played a great game. Was not given a chance from his offensive line. You want to convince Dylan to stay? Convince him he's going to have an offensive line that he can win with. I think Geep Wade can give that to you. That's what fires me up the most. I think, I'll just come on and say, I think this is one of the best coaching staff hires we've seen so far this offseason. There's been some good ones. You know, Florida picking up Buster Faulkner. This one matters. This is a big deal. Before we get into it, as always, I want to dive a little bit more into this. I want to open up the defensive coordinator conversation a little bit. Before we get into it, as always, how about one, a vibe check from the Nebraska fans? And number 2, just some appreciation. It's been really fun, and this fan base has shown a ton of support to the boys over the last couple of years. I can't promise you a ton. I can promise you one thing. We're going to have a lot to talk about regarding this program over the next month and a half because Matt Rhule is going to get active. They did not bring in a ton of bodies at the high school ranks. You're going to have to fill up this roster somehow. That's going to be in the transfer portal. A lot of commitments, a lot of targets to break down over the next couple of weeks and months. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I hand up, apologize, long intro. Geep Wade coming to Nebraska. How are we feeling about it?
Yeah, and this is like the position that probably to an extent has held Nebraska back from kind of getting to where I think Matt Rhule needs to go. Because I think we know Matt Rhule, like, in Nebraska might know this too. Like when Nebraska tried to hire Mike Riley, I think you always knew that was like a very weird fit. Like, why would you want to hire a guy who is coming from the West Coast and plays a style that doesn't really fit with what I think like the best in Nebraska would be, which to me would be really good offensive lines, really physical teams, being able to sprinkle in some really good athletes and elevate that position as well, which frankly Matt Rhule's been able to do. But the fact that they haven't gotten themselves to like that offensive line factory, like
you're a bottom half team. Sorry to cut you off. You're a bottom half team in the Big Ten along the lines of scrimmage. Like that's not the recipe for getting Nebraska where they want to go. You made a good point. They fixed some things about Nebraska that I really do like. If Nebraska's competing for Big Ten championships, becoming a college football playoff team, which you make no mistake about it, that's the expectation that Matt Rhule has set for this program. We got to win the lines of scrimmage, man. And it's not just because it fits the Nebraska nature, although that is a reason.
No, because I think it matters. It's like you have geographical advantages and disadvantages. Nebraska should be able to be a destination for Midwest offensive linemen, similar to like how Wisconsin was for a really long time. And when they were humming, they always had first-round NFL offensive tackles. They were really big. They were really physical. They had that identity. In Matt Rhule, this offensive line, like, guys aren't getting drafted here. It's just not been good enough. It's not a great destination, I don't think, for that type of player, and it needs to be. And I'd like to think Geep Wade can give them a chance to kind of build that back up and be what it needs to be.
Okay, so let me sell you on Geep Wade then. I feel like we've talked about why it's important to get right, and that is important conversation. There's two things I love that Donovan Raiola just did not do. One, that young, talented pipeline of offense. Like, where is that for Nebraska? Show me the examples of guys getting better during their time at Lincoln. You have not seen that enough. Georgia Tech, you see that. The other thing you get is transfer portal evaluations, which is, dude, it's hard. It's hard to get offensive line right in the portal because there's not that many bona fide studs, and it's hard to figure out the guys that can jump from the G5 to the Big Ten and play ball. Geep Wade's been really good using the portal, and he's probably going to have to going into 2026. I think a big storyline here is he's going to get on campus and help Nebraska during bowl prep. Why does that matter? I mean, he gets 15 practices to get a feel for, hey, who are my studs? Who are the guys that I can lean on in 2026? And then what positions do I need to go out and address in the portal? And the thing I love about Geep Wade is he knows how to do that. And you go back to Donovan and say, you had all this money to go get a tackle, and he went with Elijah Pritchett. And look, the potential of Elijah Pritchett, it excited me. Like, he'd never been a good football player at Alabama. And so you spent all your money on Elijah Pritchett. I don't think Geep Wade makes those kind of mistakes, which certainly matters in this era of the sport too. There's a lot of reasons to really like this one. And how about the last part? I'm sorry I'm talking long, kind of passionate about this one, I guess. Just way more qualified. Donovan Raiola was not a qualified Big Ten offensive line coach at Nebraska. I mean, you go back and look at his time before he came to Nebraska, he's never a Power 4 offensive line coach. There are not many more qualified and resume strong offensive line coaches in the country than Geep Wade. This dude's an offensive line coach to the freaking bone. That's another thing I like. Hey, defensive coordinator conversation. I want to get your take on Phil Snowdell. I'm seeing a lot of Phil Snow on the message boards for Nebraska fans. I don't agree with it, but I'll give you the T-box.
No, this would feel a little bit like my buddy hire to an extent, and I don't.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Like, go out and get a really good defensive coordinator like Phil Snow. It just feels like maybe the time has passed for, like, at that point. Is he going to bring that energy and like a new reinvigoration that I think Nebraska really needs on that side? I don't really see
it. Feels lazy and safe, right? That's how I would. And this is not me getting up here and saying Phil Snow's a bad football coach. He's a decent amount of resume and track record that's telling me he's a pretty damn good coach. You fired Coach Butler for a reason, man. We need change. We need new. If Phil Snow ain't bringing change and new to Nebraska, can I give you one that, look, I'm seeing Ryan Walters, and I'm seeing Jim Leonard, and I'm seeing Jim Knowles, all of which I think would be quality candidates to take over this defense. Can I give you one real quick? Ronnie English. Everybody talks about Louisville and Jeff Brom and quarterbacks and offense. You want to talk about a storyline about why Louisville is winning ball games? Ron English on defense. And here's the thing I love about Ron English. I look at the brand I want to see Nebraska play on defense, and it's not this bend but don't break and hold them to 3 in the red zone. That's I'm not accepting that if I'm a Nebraska fan. That is not how we envision. Again, close your eyes and view Nebraska and envision Nebraska as a team that's in the college football playoffs. What does that recipe look like? I promise you, bend but don't break ain't it. Give me a defensive coordinator that's going to stop the run, get after the passer, force turnovers. 3 things of which Ron English is really damn good at. Now, why Ron English specifically? There's a lot of DCs that I think can stop the run and create turnovers, right? Get after the passer. Lickety split, man. We need this to happen in 2026, and we got to go to the portal to do so. I think he got some guys. I love that freshman from Dakota. I like where Williams-Winery's going. We need dudes, man. You just did not do enough last year on the defensive line. And that was such a monumental mistake by Matt Rhule and this personnel staff. I mean, Gabe Moore, Jalen George, you thought those guys were going to be your answer to replacing Nash and Ty, was lunacy. And it bit you in the ass because you couldn't stop the run. You couldn't hold up along the lines of scrimmage. Ron English, his evaluations in the portal are elite. he can get this defense right immediately in 2026. To me, makes a lot of sense.
And you think about the guys who have come through that Louisville pipeline, like the Ashton
Dogs.
Gilardi's, the Jared Dawson now at Notre Dame, who's ripping
Yep.
up, Clev Lubin this year. Like, he is really guys who, again, I mean, they're not recruiting like Georgia defensive linemen. Like, we all know why Georgia has good defensive lines. They recruit at an extremely high level. And yeah, if you got enough dogs up there, you're going to be good. Like, the ability to identify and also like get them going and put them in really good spots. Like, Ashton Gilardi feasted for the most part at Louisville.
Yeah.
Clev Lubin, he's feasting right now. I think there's that ability
sorry to interrupt. Clev Lubin came from Coastal Carolina. Like, you talk about finding the right guys to come in and make an impact. I think he's from Coastal Carolina.
Putting him in really good spots. He is a Coastal Carolina. He was again, he was like an interesting guy, but I wouldn't have thought he'd come in and be one of the better defensive ends in the ACC, but he's not. And a lot of that, again, Ron English, whatever he's doing, it's really working at Louisville because they don't have a crazy amount of talent, but their defenses play really, really well.
And they evaluate in the portal well. I guess here's how I want to wind down this episode is I'm not saying it needs to be Ron English. Give me a coordinator like Ron English that knows how to evaluate in the portal and that's going to be really aggressive. That at least to me, that's what it looks like for Nebraska when they're playing their best ball. All right, we'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. To Nebraska fans, buckle in. It's going to be a busy month and a half. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.